Hello again, everyone. The truth is finally coming out about what goes on behind closed doors. Fox was born in Chelsea, London, on April 13th, 1937. From the moment he was born, his life was full of drama, family problems, and lies. Robin Fox, his father, was a theater director. Been married to Angela Worthington since October 1935. But before Edward was born, Robin told Angela something that would stay with her forever. He said he would never stand by her. He meant what he said. Robin had a lot of affairs. He even dated Rosalind Chateau for a long time and had a son with her named Daniel in 1948. A lot of people thought Robin was the dad. Not everything ended there. Princess Marina, who is married to Prince George, was one of Robin's most shocking romances. It was more than just rumors. It made the already complicated family story even stranger and more uncomfortable. The famous writer Frederick Lonsdale was the father of Edward's mother, Angela. That was true, but it came with a cloud. She was born without a husband or wife. In 1927, The Lady of Scandal, one of her father's plays, made him famous. Some people knew about his stories about his family, but others didn't. Similar to Edward's family, they were full of lies, affairs, and social problems. They went to Sussex during World War II to get away from the bombings in London. He was only a little boy when he saw bombs go off. It gave him nightmares and helped make him shy and quiet. Beginning around age 13, he went to Harrow School in the early 1950s. He did poorly on his schoolwork. Even though he only got 3% in math on the test, he got in because his father pushed him to. He liked studying French and German, but not the way theater was taught. It was boring for him to take acting classes, and he didn't like how the school valued custom over creativity. Churchill even went to the school twice while Edward was there, but he didn't like any of it. Even though he wasn't kicked out, he quit early in 1955 because he was fed up with the strict atmosphere. Also that year, when he turned 18, he joined the army to do his part for the country. Edward was in the army from 1955 to 1957. He wanted to advance to officer in the Coldstream Guards, but failed. In the end, he joined the Loyalist Regiment. According to later reports, he did actually serve in the Coldstream Guards. Any way you look at it, his time in the army was very different from his time in high school. Even though it went against his artistic nature, he liked the discipline. He started looking for acting jobs when he got out of the military at age 20. One director said he wasn't very good, but they noticed that Edward loved giving dramatic statements in public. Marks and Spencer fired him once because he was wearing a loud checked suit. Even though Edward didn't keep that job, it was another sign that he didn't belong in this world. He started the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA, in 1958 with the goal of becoming an actor. He had 21 years. Edward didn't stay for long, but some of his friends, like Albert Finney, would become famous. He didn't think school was there to help him. He loved Clifford Turner's singing lessons, and he used what he learned for the rest of his career. He quit RADA sometime between 1959 and 1960 and began acting in small theaters. He bought a striped suit from Henry Poole and Collins for $47.14 the same year, most likely for an interview. He moved into Ockenden, a small house in Sussex, and kept walking around town giving talks to anyone who would accept them. He was learning, but he wasn't well known yet. For money in the early 1960s, he worked as a waiter in London nightclubs. Additionally, he did some odd jobs and attempted to stay involved with the world of theater. A lot of people were talking about other people, and Edward listened quietly to learn how the company worked. Although there was never any proof that he saw anything bad, like casting couch situations, he swore to himself that he would never fall for those tricks. He had a small role in the 1962 movie The Mindbenders, but no one even knew who he was. Soon after, he was in the loneliness of the long-distance runner without being recognized. At the time, he was 25 and having a hard time getting by, but he was slowly making progress. Furthermore, he went to Paris that year on a trip that would alter everything. Edward learned about the French New Wave film style when he went to Paris in 1962. It was movies by François Truffaut and other directors that showed him a whole new side of movies. The experience made him think about what kind of actress he wanted to be. Even though he was still poor and had to work extra jobs, this trip gave him a reason to live. Upon returning to London, he took on more jobs. Tuesday, February 14th, 1963, was Edward Fox's first big chance. He was just filling in for his brother James in a play at Wyndham's Theatre called The Importance of Being Earnest. He wasn't the lead. Things did not go as planned, though. The two brothers got into a big fight at practice on March 5th. Edward didn't like how James said a line, and their fight got so bad that it almost spoiled the show. The director thought Edward was very serious. There was a stalemate for 2 days because of the fight, though. The manager, H.M. Tennant, had to settle them down. Edward was able to act for the first time on April 20th. He got good reviews for his role as Algernon, even though there was a lot of trouble behind the scenes. The situation got worse. Some managers wouldn't work with him because of the fight, calling him unprofessional. He was put on a block for a short time. There wasn't much attention for him after the play on May 15th, but it was enough to keep him going. Ethan had tried to get into movies before that. In The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner, which was shot from June 4th to August 12th, 1961, and came out in some places in 1964, he was an extra. He didn't even get credit. The director, Tony Richardson, turned him down for a bigger part on July 10th, 1961, saying he looked too fancy for the part. That wounded me. Edward went to Harrow, a fancy school, so he didn't seem like he belonged in a movie about working-class people. But he didn't quit. He changed. He started to learn how to act methodically. Starting on August 15th, he copied real runners and workers and dropped 12 pounds to look rougher. He changed something in the script while shooting on September 3rd. He was told by Richardson to stick to backups. The movie came out on September 27th, 1962, and Edward remembered what it was like to be left out. All the way up until 1965, that pain followed him around. He was only paid $50 for that small section. Eventually, in 1967, Edward got a real TV part. On October 18th, in a show called The Order, he played the lead role in the Wednesday stage play. As a military officer, he tried to hide the fact that he was gay. Based on true events like the Vassal case in 1962, Britain officially decriminalized homosexuality on July 27, 2017, just 3 months before the show aired. People were stunned. It had gotten over 1,200 reports by October 20th. Some letters even said bad things about him. 3 people on October 22nd told him he should be hurt. He had spent weeks getting ready. Starting on September 5th by meeting campaigners in Soho, family members fought a lot over the part. Some family members stopped talking to him on November 1st. 8 million people watched the show, though. 3 minutes of scenes were cut on October 15th. With all of his achievements, Edward still had panic attacks until the next year. Although, by December, he had 15 more job offers. In Oh, What a Lovely War, 1969, Edward had a small part. He played an aide to the troops, and filming began at Brighton Pier on January 6th. He had an angry fight with director Richard Attenborough on February 20th. Edward wants the anti-war movement to be stronger. They got so angry with each other that shooting had to stop for 4 hours. That's almost what happened. There was tension until February 22nd, when the director gave in. While they were fighting, Edward's business suffered until they made up in 1977. Edward played a part in Battle of Britain later that same year. Released on September 15, 1969, he had a part as a pilot called Archie. At Duxford, movies were shot from April 1st to July 20th. He met soldiers like Douglas Bader, who had mislaid 23 friends in the 1940 air battles. He went to a talk on June 10th where someone told them that one of the 103 RAF pilots had died in just under 3 months. Edward began to have bad dreams. Every week, he would scream when he woke up at least 3 times. He had a deal that was supposed to last 6 weeks, but ended up lasting 11 months because of bad weather. What happened in 1971 changed Edward's life. He played Viscount Trimingham, an aristocrat with scars. The movie was based on a 1953 book and was shot in Norfolk. It was first shown at Cannes on May 13th and won the Palme d'Or. The award went to Edward for 1972's Best Supporting Actor. But things were not going well off camera. By July 1970, tabloids were full of stories about Edward having an affair with his co-star Julie Christie. Her age was 30 and his was 34. He had been married to Tracy Reed since 1958. According to them, the two were kissing in between takes. It was on more than 15 front pages. Edward said he wasn't in a BBC interview on August 5th. Even so, the reports made things worse. That was followed by the 1973 day of the Jackal. Edward played a killer with no feelings. Along with meeting real ex-mercenaries in Paris in August 1972, he practiced for 60 hours with a custom .22 gun to get ready. MI5 started to watch him because it looked so real. They went to see the set in Vienna on September 15th because they were afraid he was learning too much about real-life terror methods. In London on October 3rd, he got a letter. Within it was a bullet and a message. Don't dig anymore or join the targets. Marseille sent it. The police suspected an ex-worker and shut down shooting for 2 days. It cost $45,000 to wait. It was released on May 16, 1973. It made $16 million and cost $8 million to make. Scenes with Edward were filmed in 3 countries over the course of 120 days. Within 90 seconds, he learned how to put together the sniper gun. In Edward and Mrs. Simpson, which came out in 1978, Edward played King Edward VIII. The king's choice to give up the throne on December 10, 1936, was based on his love for Wallis Simpson. There were episodes of the show from November 8th to December 20th. However, royalists were very angry. 200 people protested at Elstree Studios on October 15th and yelled, "Traitor to the crown." The show should be stopped. The Monarchist League wrote 1,500 letters. 15 people were caught on October 17th. 3 days of breaks in filming cost $20 million. Even a letter told Edward, "You will step down as actor." Even so, 12 million people watched every show. Even on December 5th, Parliament talked about it. Some reviewers said that the plot omitted information, such as Edward's ties to the NSDAP. It was okay with Edward, who said in an interview. Lastly, in 1979, Edward played Dr. Hendricks in The Cat and the Canary. In Purbright, movies were shot from March 5th to June 20th. There was a lot going on set. Oscar winners Honor Blackman and Olivia Hussey had a fight over the script. Husey left the set on May 15th, and work didn't start again for a week. Overtime alone cost $80,000, which brought the total cost up from $750,000 to $1.1 million. He stepped in, Edward. He met with both actors at his hotel on May 22nd for 3 hours and helped settle the matter. It was his promise that they could help make the scenes. The situation got better by May 25th. It was released on November 1st and made $2,500,000. There were some sexual themes in one scene that Hussey didn't like, which led to the fight. She wanted 10 changes made. After the fact, Edward said that quoting Shakespeare saved the movie. Ed Fox played one of the most controversial parts of his life in 1982. Within the movie Gandhi, he played General Reginald Dyer. Actually, Dyer was the British officer who told the soldiers to fire on a peaceful crowd in Amritsar. Around 15,000 people who were not armed were stuck inside a walled garden on April 13, 1919. Dyer told his soldiers to shoot without saying anything. From what the government says, 379 people died and 1,200 were hurt. According to Indian reports, more than 1,000 people were killed. Fox created a character so cold and serious that when he said "fire" on screen, it gave people chills. He was nominated for a BAFTA for the act in 1983, but it also had very bad effects. In January 1983, Fox got 12 death threats while promoting the movie in London. He was called the devil in some letters. "You will be haunted by Dyer's ghost," someone said. After 10 nights of not sleeping in his hotel room, Fox had to sleep with a security guard outside. Fear really existed. The movie did make $127 million around the world and won 8 Oscars. Afterward, Fox said it was his most important job, even though it was dangerous. Fox worked with Albert Finney in the 1983 movie The Dresser, which came out in 1984. During the bombing of London during World War II, he played Norman, a loyal helper to an old actor. The movie showed how confusing life is in the theater. That has 17 intense scenes of breaks in practice. There were problems during a real practice in February 1983, though. Finney stuck to his role and yelled insults at Fox for 15 minutes straight. He told him he was useless, weak, and sad. Fox started crying. It stopped being filmed for 2 days. After the fact, Finney said he lost control of his method acting. According to Fox, he kept quiet to keep the scene safe. Because of the shooting, he had to go to rehab. Regardless, the movie was a hit. 5 people nominated it for an Oscar, and it made $5.3 million. The 2 actors had great chemistry. according to critics and the New York Times. They said it felt very real on film. For a play called The Philanthropist, Edward Fox went back to Broadway on March 15, 1986. He was a quiet professor called Philip whose friends were loud and crazy. 2,500 people came to see the play at the Ethel Barrymore Theater, bringing in $1.2 million. In one of the dinner scenes on April 2nd, though, something shocking took place. Unfortunately, his pants tore open while he was speaking. Tens of thousands of people saw everything. The theater stopped moving for 10 seconds. Fox quickly prepared a line, left the stage, and the show went on. News magazines ran the story the next day. New York Post's header said, Fox's Foxy Flub. 20% fewer tickets were sold in the first week, and the organizers thought about canceling the play, but Fox didn't let it go. In interviews, he made fun of it by saying, "My pride was hurt, but the show must go on." It helped that there was talk. Following that, 15% more people showed up. Later, it was even used in a Saturday Night Live sketch. What started out as an insult turned into a stage legend. In 1983, Edward Fox also became a James Bond actor when he played M in the movie Never Say Never Again. Because it wasn't in the normal Ian series, it was a unique Bond movie. The movie, which came out on October 7th and made $160 million around the world, starred Sean Connery again as James Bond. Connery's Bond and Fox had 9 scenes together, and they were all very serious and stern. But behind the scenes, things were getting worse. During a day of shooting on April 12th, director Irvin Kershner made changes that were more in line with Connery's ideas. Fox didn't like what happened. After 3 days, on April 15th, he stormed off the set mad. He told the team, "I'm not a puppet," and then he left. It cost around $200,000 to stop filming for 2 days. He needed to be calmed down by Connery. The two of them talked alone. Fox came back. It was his worst experience on a movie set, which he later blamed on working 14-hour days. Despite all the problems, the movie made $20 million more than the competing James Bond movie Octopussy. Fox's performance as M became famous, but the escape was still a part of the story. Starting in early 1989, Fox played a British officer in the movie Return from the River Kwai, a war movie about prisoners of war from the Allies who built the Thai-Burma Railway during World War II. It was filmed in Thailand's thick woods from January 15th to May 20th. Many prisoners of war died while working on that railroad from 1942 to 1943. Fox did his best, but on March 10th, while shooting a scene at night in Kanchanaburi, mosquitoes bitten him and he got very sick with malaria. His body temperature went up to 104 degrees Celsius. Immediately, he was taken to a hospital in Bangkok, where he resided for 18 days. He got rid of 15 pounds. The filming had to be put off for 5 weeks, which added $1.2 million to the cost. Fox said in an interview in 1990, "I thought death was close." During his sickness, he had scary visions, but the pain made his performance stronger. Even though it only made $4.5 million, the movie got a BAFTA for sound. Some people said that his performance looked haunted in a way that felt very real. In a British version of Robin Hood that came out on May 13, 1991, Fox played Peter John. The version starring Kevin Costner, which came out a month later on June 14th, had a lighter tone than the one starring Patrick Bergin as Robin, and received $390 million. Fox's version only had $15 million to work with, and things got tricky behind the scenes. Producer John McTiernan ordered reshoots to make sure the movie was true to history, which made everything take longer than planned. People thought Fox's portrayal of Prince John was too cruel during test showing. The movie, which was 104 minutes long, lost 12 minutes of his parts. Fox said that his show was based on real royal crimes, such as the 1215 betrayal of the Magna Carta. Sadly, his part was overshadowed by the other version's popularity. Although Fox had been playing serious dramas for years, this was a chance for her to try something different. Fox was in the 1996 TV movie September, which aired on December 8th. He had the part of Archie, of a man in the Scottish Highlands who is stuck in a painful love triangle. The scariest part was a suicide plan in which Pandora, played by Jackal ends her own life after telling everyone that she has cancer that will kill her. One of the letters her character wrote turned things around. Fox eventually talked about this story in an interview in November 1996, saying that it was personal for him. In 1951, He was only 14 years old when his parents split up, and it was unpleasant, with hurtful and dishonest things happening. Henry's younger brother James was only 12 years old. That happened to him as a child and stuck with him. Several people had different ideas about how graphic the suicide scene should be while it was being made. They had to reshoot some scenes, so the movie's release date was pushed back by 3 months. A whopping 4.2 million people watched it when it appeared. For many, it was shocking how real and intense it felt. Afterward, Fox said that the part helped him understand the pain in his own family. Fox came back to movies in 2002 with the importance of being earnest. He played a smart butler named Lane in the May 17th movie, which was a nod to his early playing days. Things weren't going well, though. Before the movie shoot began in April 2001, Fox wanted $500,000, saying he had a long and respected career that included winning a BAFTA. It wasn't agreed upon by the creators, Miramax. There were weeks of talks, and shooting was put off by 6 weeks. Fox took $350,000 plus a cut of the money made in the end. But the movie that cost $15 million only made $18 million around the world. Some critics said Fox's act had the sharp humor of Oscar Wilde. However, fans were more interested in what was going on behind the scenes. Fox later said in an interview that it was all serious business. Fox played a wild character called Lord Kilwillie on the BBC show Monarch of the Glen from 2000 to 2005. In 7 seasons, he was in 24 shows. The show was about a Scottish farm and the people who lived there. Issues became heated in season 3. Kilwillie asked Molly to marry him soon after her husband Hector died. Fans were really angry. Many people wrote to the BBC in March 2002 to say that the story was hurtful. Script writers quickly changed it to make it less intense. They had to stop making things for 2 weeks to fix it. Fox said the plot was based on his own life, which was a defense. In 1973, he got married during a very fighty time in his family. Still, about 7 million people watched the show every week, and even saw a 15% rise in viewers because of the debate. Fox became a regular on TV because of it, and he stayed with the show until it finished on October 23, 2005. There was a rare event in British theater in 2010. There is a one-man show called Sand in the Sandwiches that is going on tour around the UK. This book was about the life of John Betjeman, an author. It was just Edward Fox on stage. Every night they act for almost 2 hours. At that time, he wasn't very young either. Even though he was 70 years old, he didn't stop. Every night, he gave it his all by reading poems and talking about Betjeman's life. It didn't matter that he didn't try to look like Betjeman, who was fat and bald. The most important thing was how Fox caught the poet's heart, the warmth, charm, and sadness that made Betjeman so memorable. His favorites were the town clerk's views and Miss Joan Hunter Dunn. He said that Betjeman was unique because he wrote about things that people really cared about. The show was so popular that it ran at the Theatre Royal Haymarket for an unusually long week in 2017. Not being a musical, that was a big deal. Fox started the Doctor Who audio drama series in 2018, 3 years after the show's premiere in 2013. Things got tricky during what should have been an easy time. The BBC started to crack down on content made by fans. Legal threats were sent to people who had made audio plays without permission. Edward wasn't right in the middle of a case, but he was in the middle of a bigger problem. Others thought it was not fair. They said that the BBC was going after small fan projects, but it also praised other work that wasn't official. Something like the 2019 student-led game Mission to the Unknown. The fans were confused. The Doctor Who group was clearly going through a strange and tense time, even though Edward didn't say much about it. Edward changed to something very sad in 2015. He worked on Elegy, Rachmaninoff, and A Heart in Exile with the musician Lucy Parham. This book told the story of Sergei Rachmaninoff, a Russian musician, who left home in 1917 and never really came back. Edward read letters and notebook entries while Parham played moody piano music by Rachmaninoff. They made something quiet and strong together. There were preludes, etudes tableaux, and moments musico among the pieces of music. Others were by Scriabin and Tchaikovsky. It was first played live at St. John Smith Square, and then it was taped. Some people may not have understood the pain in Rachmaninoff's music until they heard Edward's voice on tour. In 2018, Edward did something very unusual. He performed in Oscar Wilde's An Ideal Husband with his real son, Freddie Fox. Edward was 81. Freddie was 39. Additionally, they played a dad and a kid in the play. It was an electric dynamic. The Earl of Caversham, Edward, was very strict. Lord Goring, played by Freddie, was a young man who was fun and smart at the same time. People loved how well they got along. "Do you really always understand what you say, sir?" Edward asked. When Freddie said, "Yes, Dad, if I listen carefully," the theater burst out laughing. They performed 8 times a week, which was hard on their bodies, but the bond between them made it special. Ethan took part in the Poetry Hour in 2019. Of course, he was just defending something he loved at these public poem readings: classical ideals, British poetry, and cultural memory. Lawrence Fox, his nephew, was in the news at the same time for criticizing cancel society. Lawrence made a political party and called people in charge of culture woke commissars. Edward did not directly talk about politics. He went with poems instead. It was important to him to only do things that made sense. Apparently, artists shouldn't play every part. There should be something useful for them to do. A lot of people are also interested in Edward's personal life. His career was just getting started when he married actress Tracy Reed in 1958. Her age was only 17. They were no longer married after 1961, but they stayed friends for life. Later, Tracy said that they knew their marriage was doomed from the start, but they always cared about each other. Lucia Arabella Fox was their daughter, and she later became Viscountess Gormanston. Tracy later got married 3 more times and was in Dr. Strangelove. At age 70, she died in 2012 from liver cancer. Joanna David has been Edward's most stable partner. They started dating in 1971. They had 2 kids named Freddie and Amelia. Although they were together for 33 years, they didn't get married until July 2004. Had major health issues, including surgery on the brain in 1993. In later years, she gave money to brain and cancer causes. Amelia, their daughter, became popular through Silent Witness, and Freddie also became an actor after them. There have been times when the Fox family name wasn't a good thing. Larry Fox, Edward's nephew, lost a big lawsuit case in January 2024. After falsely calling 2 men internet child molesters, he was told to pay $180,000. A drag queen who was one of the guys said the backlash was too much to handle. The court found Lawrence's words hurtful and lacking in evidence. He later filed an appeal on 5 points, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. The whole Fox family got unwanted attention because of what happened. In 2021, Edward was in the news. He said that he didn't trust COVID-19 shots and lockdowns. He thought that healthy people shouldn't have to be locked up alone. They had mostly stayed out of politics, so this was a big change for them. But it wasn't totally surprising given Lawrence's ideas. Even so, a lot of people were upset. At that time, most British stars were pushing people to get vaccinated. Edward's words didn't make sense. Later, in 2025, Edward, who was 88 years old at the time, led a protest in Wareham. It was to save a simple railroad bridge that every day saw 860 people. Quite a few were old or couldn't move. It was going to be replaced by an expensive ramp system that scooters and strollers couldn't use. Edward came in person at 11 a.m. on February 1st, and she stood with Vicky Slade, an MP. His fame helped the news get their attention. More than 2,500 people signed the petition. The Equality Act helped him make his case when he talked to officials about sexism. Later that same year, on October 18th, the Fox family spent the night at the Purbeck Film Festival. Edward said something that not many artists ever say out loud at an event. There was talk of favoritism. He explained that having a famous family name made things easier. His job as a producer and that of his brother Robert Fox helped younger family members get parts that would have been hard for other people to get. It wasn't denied by him. Indeed, he made it clear. Family names need to be easy to remember. That same year, Edward told even more in an interview. Big movie deals were turned down because the scripts had been changed in ways he called woke changes. He thought that the characters were not like they were in the source stories. Those things didn't interest him. He thought that younger actors were pushed to take on parts that supported modern ideas, but he knew he could refuse. Besides that, he said cancel culture was cruel and stupid. He was also the subject of many rumors about his health. In 2025, people on social media said he was dead. Some people quickly believed it, but Edward had to say that he was still alive and well. Because of the false stories, he didn't go out in public as much. and the issues that came up with Lawrence. He said that scams like this were happening too often, especially with older artists who don't use social media. He didn't like having to deal with lies, but the quiet made them worse. Edward Fox has stayed true to what is important to him through poems, politics, protests, and pain. He's still very picky about the parts he takes on, still speaking out when he thinks something is wrong, and still telling people that being famous for a long time doesn't mean you stop caring about what's real.